Hi, this is Riley Ingram, and I'm doing my assignment on dopamine and unexpected rewards in ADHD. So just to recap what we learned in the textbook, we use predicted reward outcome to make decisions. Since we cannot see the future, we base these choices on previous experiences. Dopamine is involved in this process. When we make a decision that leads to a favorable outcome, dopamine is released. If a decision leads to an unfavorable outcome, it results in a dip of dopamine. This reinforces our decision-making in future choices. ADHD is a well-known neurodevelopmental condition that affects executive functioning, which includes decision-making. So why might this cognitive process function differently in people with ADHD than people without it? Well, some other areas of executive functioning include working memory, organization and planning ahead, and cognitive flexibility. Deficits in these areas affect the ability of someone with ADHD to effectively make the most advantageous decisions. There is evidence that these difficulties in decision-making can be associated with deficiencies in reinforcement learning, which is the process described on the introduction slide. Reinforcement learning is also used to describe a type of machine learning for AI, but the study I read used this term, which is why I'm using it here as well. As reinforcement learning depends on the dopamine system, this suggests that dopamine functioning is substandard in people with ADHD. While it is not yet clear what the precise cause of this is, it has been theorized that ADHDers have excessive amounts of dopamine transporters, which remove too much dopamine from the synapse, leading to a deficiency of dopamine. How does this topic relate to how people interact with the world? We are constantly making decisions whether we realize it or not. Even small, everyday decisions add up to major impacts in someone's life. This topic provides insight for how people decide whether to eat breakfast or skip it, if they want to wear the blue shirt or the white shirt, or whether they should marry their significant other or not. Clearly, the role of dopamine in decision-making has a profound effect on cognition. The decisions we make impact every aspect of our life. It is also necessary to consider how learning is impacted by this process. Dopamine and rewards are central to the operant conditioning learning theory, which is very similar to the reinforcement learning described. This topic is particularly relevant to my field of study, which is education. As a teacher, it is important for me to understand why students might behave a certain way. Students with ADHD are sadly often believed to be troublemakers. I feel that this misconception can be avoided with even a basic understanding of their neuropsychological differences. Additionally, the impact of dopamine deficiencies on learning should be something that teachers are aware of. We learn a lot about operant conditioning and behaviorism and other kinds of learning theories, but we actually only ever learn about them when we're considering neurotypical brains. I'm interested in this personally because I have ADHD, so I always like to learn more about the scientific explanations for neurodivergence. I feel like it helps me to understand myself better, and it provides just more of a evidence that there's nothing wrong with me, even though I have challenges with things that seem very simple. Professionally, since I have my own experiences with ADHD and difficulties in the education system, I'm always eager to learn more about how to create inclusive learning environments for all students, especially those who tend to struggle to succeed in an education system that is not designed for them. It's often believed that people with ADHD have stronger tendencies towards temporal discounting, which is when you choose immediate rewards over long-term benefits. A meta-analysis found that this correlation was not as strong as expected. In one study, 73% of participants with ADHD chose to delay gratification, while only 58% of the non-ADHD control group did. This demonstrates the cognitive bias held towards people with ADHD, as the researchers were surprised by this finding. The results of the temporal discounting suggest that more research is needed regarding the context of decision-making in ADHD. If we are able to better understand how all factors are altered in decision-making with ADHD, we will gain insight in how to create inclusive learning environments for these students. Some avenues to venture include the roles of interest and emotion. This might be easier than people realize. People with ADHD can increase their dopamine levels through their own hyperactive movements, which was something I never knew before that is very interesting. If students with ADHD are placed in environments that honor this need for movement and this need to fulfill their own dopamine levels, this could positively impact their learning, and it would be really simple to do so. The diagnosis of ADHD is primarily based on the observations of others, and it focuses on areas of supposed deficiencies. Even with the diagnosis, the presentation of these symptoms is often seen as evidence of poor character, such as laziness or unintelligence. There is a concerning lack of understanding and empathy for students with ADHD because it's difficult for neurotypical people to fathom what it is like because they take all of these executive functioning skills for granted. Scientific evidence of this condition provides proof that it's not an excuse for people who want things to be handed to them or made easier. It also provides the basis for creating relevant pedagogical approaches. And these are my references. Thank you for watching.